Hi, and welcome back to the Shamrock Quilt Studio. Today we're working on our applique project, Miss Kelly. Now, what have I been working on recently? I've been making all of the tail feathers for the birds. And let's see, somewhere here is the pattern. Oh, it's up here. So I'm making these pieces here. And there are 7 feathers for each bird, and they're mirror images of them. And if you remember when I first made the purple pieces for the birds, I ended up making 2 of the same side instead of 1 for each side that mirrored each other. Well, out of 14 pieces, I had 1 that I did incorrectly, so I have to go back and do that one. But the rest of them are made, and what I have done here is I've temporarily placed them on top of just a printed copy of this section of the pattern, just to make sure that they fit appropriately. Now, one thing that I've noticed, and we talked about this in a previous video, is this pattern has a lot of pieces that sit right next to each other. And in enlarging the pattern from the small size to the larger 300% size, not only did the spaces between the pieces get a little bit bigger, but the actual pieces, of course, got bigger, and the lines got bigger. And I think as I was working through this, and we talked a little bit about this last week, some of the areas are just a little too close. And I realized this before I got to this section. So when I made these feathers, what I did, instead of cutting on the outside of the pattern line for the templates, where are the templates? I think I've put them away. Well, we'll use this one for example. Instead of cutting on the outside of the pencil line for the templates, or even cutting on the line itself, what I did with the tail feathers is I cut them inside the line. So that made them just a tiny, tiny bit smaller than some of the other pieces that we've made. And I hope that that's going to kind of make them fit just a little bit better. It's really hard when you're enlarging patterns because, like I said, everything enlarges. Those lines enlarge. And where it might have been a fine line when the pattern was drawn, when it's enlarged to 300%, now it becomes like a Sharpie. So you can see where you've got a little bit of difference there. But that little small tweak, in addition to what we talked about last week for the pattern, I think is going to make a huge difference. And this is an area where we've got 7 pieces going together in probably a 4 by 5 inch area. So it's a lot of pieces, a lot of fabric. And my next step is going to be to hook these together. I'll probably start by hooking 2 together and then joining a 3rd one and then joining the other 2 and then hooking them onto the big piece. So I've got that one big piece now that fits the pattern area that I can slide right up underneath the rear end of that bird and get it in place and stitch it to the background. So that's where we are today. And a little tip there on the patterns and the lines and where to cut it. I did notice that the colors of the fabric that I chose is beginning to show a little divergence from the original pattern. And I think that probably when this was made, of course, there were different fabrics. I think this came all out of a line of fabrics that was available at that time. That's been 10, 12 years ago since this pattern was done. And of course, we're limited to what we can get in the store. And all things being even, we would love to get or I would love to get a fabric that was identical to what had been used, so my end result would be so very close. But that's not the case. We're limited to what's there in the store at the time and how long we're willing to shop for fabrics to get them to match, right? And I kind of have to set a limit so I can move forward. So I do notice that even on these feathers, where her feathers were a softer color, particularly in the medium and the yellow and the little medium light orange color. Hers were a little softer. I kind of wish this one had been more of a subtle pattern instead of a little bolder pattern. But we're going to keep moving on with it and not spend too much time second guessing that. But just do keep that in mind when you're shopping for your fabrics, how those choices can play into the final design. That's about it for today. I appreciate you joining us so very much. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to add a comment to the video, and I'll try to get back to you to respond to that as soon as I can. Make sure to like our video and subscribe to our channel so you can see every video we release on this project and many others. Remember, there's a playlist on the channel so you can go and see every video from start to finish about this project and many others. And we'll see you next time in the Shamrock Quilt Studio.